First and foremost, I guess I will say hello and welcome to University of Findlay's virtual Alumni Career Roundtable series. Tonight we are featuring the Colleges of Health Professions and Pharmacy. So my name is Julie Klingler. I'm honored to serve as the director of the Wolf Center for Alumni, Parents, and Friends here at the university. And so what we've done today with this event and the preceding series before tonight's is we've brought together our prestigious alumni who have joined in simultaneously on this Zoom call and graciously have agreed to give of their time to serve our recent UF graduates. So also with us tonight, we have the deans of the Colleges of Health Professions and Pharmacy, Dr. Debra Parker and Dr. Rick States, and they will moderate today's event. In a few minutes, they will introduce our prestigious alumni panel. First, I'd like to welcome all of our recent UF grads to this event. We created this event for you because we know that this spring, in particular, has been extremely challenging in the job market. You've had to endure changes that you didn't expect, and you might now find yourself in uncertain economic environments that are affecting your job search. So we want you to know that we're here to help, and during the next hour, you'll have the chance to learn from our expert panel as they discuss some of the questions that you submitted to us, and then other questions as well. So thank you, graduates, for being here today. At this time, though, I will go ahead and turn things over to Brad Hammer. He is our director of University of Findlay's Center for Career and Professional Development. Brad's office has partnered with mine to bring you this series of events. Brad?
Thanks, Julie. And welcome all of our alumni panel and College of Pharmacy and College of Health Professions recent grads. Our office, and also thank you, Julie, for partnering with us and coming up with this idea to be able to have a virtual event where we can network, because in this environment right now, there aren't those traditional ways to network that are happening. And so we all know that that's one of the best ways in order to be able to get those interviews and to be able to make those contacts and connections in order to be able to get interviews. And so just know that our office is here to help however we can during this time of uncertainty. I'll say a little bit more at the end about all the services that we have going on. So kick it back to Julie.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce our moderators. They will be both moderating tonight's event. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Rick States and Dr. Debra Parker. Go ahead and take it from here.
So my name is Rick States. I'm the Dean for the College of Health Professions. One of our main goals tonight is to answer any questions that you guys might have on entering the workforce. We'll try and help you as much as we can and answer anything that you put out there. We have some questions that we'll be asking our panelists, but please do not hesitate to put questions in the chat room. Dr. Parker.
Hi, my name is Debra Parker. I'm Dean for the College of Pharmacy and happy to be with you during this event. Nothing makes me happier than to be able to participate and help out our alums. We are in an unprecedented time and we're all having to realign ourselves with the environment that we're in, what our expectations are, keeping in mind that we're playing the long game and that this too will pass. I'm thrilled that we've had some wonderful alum volunteer to be with us tonight, give their words of wisdom, and there's nothing like networking. And so I think I speak for all of us when I say if after the fact you have a question or you want to ask of any of us if we know anyone who works in a specific place or in a particular field, a good word and a personal connection can be really the thing that pushes you over the edge along with your resume. I know that we have fantastic grads from the University of Findlay, and I'm hoping that you'll take some things away tonight that will give you that extra edge and help you in your career search. So nice to be with you. I think at this point, we'll introduce each one of our panelists. With us this evening, we have Ms. Shana Duling, the class of '09, who is a dentist and owner of Columbus Grove Family Dentistry. Shania, would you want to maybe introduce yourself and give a little background?
Yeah, I'm from Putnam County, so right down the road from the University of Findlay. And I attended the University of Findlay for 5.5 years because I changed majors about 5 times. So, and Dr. States was with me through that all. And I ended up getting a dual major in nuclear medicine and pre-med, and then minoring in chemistry and biology, because after all that science, it just comes with it. So, and then I was in the end of nuclear medicine, and was just searching a different path for myself. And I can't say enough about the University of Findlay and what especially Dr. States did to get me to be able to be a good applicant for dental school. It's not something you commonly do. There's not a lot of dentists that come from the University of Findlay because there's no pre-dent program, and you don't need it. It doesn't matter. They thought, the University of Findlay is so well known for their health sciences that they were just so excited. And so that was awesome. And so I reside back in Putnam County now after going to Ohio State Dental School. And I have lots of little kids that you might hear every once in a while, so I'll definitely keep muted. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. I'm really excited for you guys to put this event on. I think it's so awesome. Such a great idea. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Our next panelist is Dr. Tom Pierson, graduated with his PharmD in the class of 2016, and he serves as the senior consultant at Bluefin Group. Tom, would you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Also very excited to talk with all of you. And as Dr. Parker said, I think these relationships that you're developing tonight and moving forward are probably the most important things that you'll get from the University of Findlay. So I graduated not too long ago in 2016 with my PharmD. So I was at Findlay for 6 years, originally from New York State. And then after finishing up at Findlay, I moved up to Madison, Wisconsin, where I did a 2-year administrative residency in pharmacy, as well as my master's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And then after finishing that up, I got a lot of experience in pharmacy leadership, operations, and decided to move back to Ohio, and took a job with Cleveland Clinic and helped to manage some of their specialty ambulatory clinics. So I worked a lot with physicians, nurses, and pharmacists on my team. And then since then have taken a non-traditional role, I guess, for a pharmacist in consulting. So now I work with healthcare entities all across the board throughout the entire healthcare marketplace. So anywhere from manufacturers, distributors, specialty pharmacies, health systems, private equity firms. So really the gamut, in the healthcare space. So really excited to be here tonight. Hopefully have some great conversation with all of you, and looking forward to meeting you. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us. And our final panelist is Dr. Katie DeSluver, class of 09, who is currently the director of rehab at ProMedica Home Healthcare, and I think you said up in Toledo, correct? Thanks for being with us, Katie. Would you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I think I'm among some top talent here, and I kind of feel a little out of place, so I appreciate that. I graduated in 2009 with my undergrad, and then went on to 2012 graduation in the Doctorate of Physical Therapy program at the University of Findlay. I was able to be part of the second group to actually graduate with our doctorate degree. So it was a great experience, a great opportunity. I played collegiate softball for my first 4 years, so I was involved in some of the extracurriculars for the university, in which many connections were made, as well as many work ethics and things that I've just taken into the professional field, gained during those times. So those of you that are on here that are involved in other things besides the study part of it, please know you're getting a lot of experience in those areas too. I have gone on now to be the director of rehab at ProMedica Home Healthcare in Toledo, Ohio. I started up in Monroe, Michigan, in a smaller home care company as a field therapist providing care to patients in their homes, and then worked way up into leadership, really just because of my education level and the need for some of our therapists that had been practicing to just be updated on some clinical updates. We've gone through 2 mergers in the last 8 years that I've been out, and I think that comes with a lot of knowledge gained through those. So I'd be happy to share my experiences as we talk tonight. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I think anyone who's been a part of an entity that has gone through a change in ownership or leadership or a merger can relate to some of those comments. So great. All right. I think at this point, Dr. States is going to take the lead in explaining how this is going to roll with the questions from us and from the students and participants that may have been submitted in advance. So Dr. States, you want to explain how this is going to work?
So what I thought we'd do is we have a list of questions that we have. And again, if you have any questions that come up, don't hesitate to put them in the chat room. So you're going to see my eyes moving the whole time because I'm going to be trying to watch that chat box down at the bottom that keeps disappearing on me. I don't know how to make it stay. But anyways, I want to ask a series of questions and then the panelists can take turns answering them. If they all 3 don't have to answer each and every question, but they're more than welcome to answer the questions as they come up. So the first question to our panelists is, what was the biggest adjustment you needed to make when transitioning to your position after college?
So I could take that one first if you'd like. So I think one of the things that there's 2 things. So when I moved from college into my residency and then into a manager position after that, I think I did a really good job, like with my, in my studies, and understood how to be a pharmacist. But I think one of the key things that University of Findlay started with helping me is to develop leadership experience, as well as just gaining more and more experience. Because I think what you'll find is you can learn about leadership, but it's nothing like really having the experience. So 2 things that I think I struggled with, like being a fresh manager, was first of all, having difficult conversations. So if there was something either bothering me or if there was something going on within the department, for example, just being able to confront issues and deal with them and have that difficult conversation is really a key skill as not only an employee, but a manager, I feel like. And then also just, the second thing being delegation. So I think one of the things that as a student, you're always studying, right? You always want to take on more, and it's all on you. It's all on your shoulders, right? But when you get out there, you're part of a team. And I think being able to delegate effectively is critical when you're a new employee and or a new manager or a new leader. So I think those are 2 things that if you can, if you've had experience with that, or if you're looking to gain leadership experience, those are things that I think you should kind of run after opportunities for. Because it's challenging as a new leader to do both of those things.
I would piggyback what he said. That was probably my biggest thing too, is as soon as you're coming out of dental school, you're supposed to lead a whole staff. And usually it's a staff that has more seniority than you. And I was by far the youngest person too. And I felt like I had to prove myself right away. And with that, it had to be a good balance of, proving your worth at the same time as not stepping on toes of people who've been there and were running a well-oiled machine before you, and trying to introduce maybe new things at the same time as respecting the experience and that stuff of people who had already been there. So that was probably my biggest struggle. And the leadership I felt was key to that. And something that helped me with that, I felt like was going back to like professors that I had met throughout the time, whether it be undergrad, teachers, and even high school, and how they were and how they, were so respectful to students even, and kind of kept level playing field and that kind of stuff. So looking back to them, seeing how they handled leadership of classes and students helped me a lot. But that was definitely my biggest transition as well.
Katie, did you want to chime in at all?
I totally agree with all those comments. The delegation is a huge role, even as an employee, just understanding that, yes, you're the clinician in the field, you're the go-to person for that task, but that task might have multiple layers. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, we're taught to ask for help throughout our careers and our studies. So continue that through, ask for help and always ask for questions. If you have a question, bring it up. There is no crazy question in the world. So if you feel that you need that, I think that was a struggle for me. Is now I'm a doctorate of physical therapy. I'm a doctor. It's on my shoulders, and that is not at all how it is out there.
So we all know about LinkedIn and Indeed. So do you guys find that to be a valuable resource, or do you have other suggested resources for jobs or opportunities?
So for me, neither of those are typically used in the dental field just because it's so selective. I mean, there's not very many really to choose from, and like dental wise, and then same thing in the dental hygiene. It's such a close community. There's just like, they all come from the same schools pretty much around here, that typically ours is word of mouth, contacting schools. They contact us. And so we don't typically use that very much. So I'll kind of see if you guys use that in your work and how applicable that is for you guys.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, was there something?
Oh, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zinkeng, class of 2012, College of Pharmacy. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet a lot of you. I could recognize some faces that I saw in Finley while I was there. I think Shana is a familiar face, even though I don't think she was in pharmacy. LinkedIn is a good source. From my experience, typically when you have a profile on there, recruiters in organizations, tend to have, really good LinkedIn accounts with all the access because they pay for it. So they're able to screen talent on LinkedIn, and they'll inbox you, jobs in places that you might not have heard of, or organizations you've never heard of. So it's a tool. But for us in pharmacy, our professional organizations, and attending conferences, are really, the big opportunity. I know for those of us who practice in health system pharmacy, attending the American Society for Health System Pharmacists Conference, which is yearly in December, really gives you that opportunity. They actually have, they have a program, they call it PPS, Personal Placement Service, I think it's what it means. And, it's a whole recruiting event for residencies. They would interview you on the spot for fellowships as well as jobs. So, between your local pharmacy organizations and then Indeed, it's another tertiary source that, folks use as well in terms of, sources for jobs. Thank you.
Palmer, Katie?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was about to say. That's perfect. So professional organizations are big. I mean, I agree on the LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, if you start to search for particular jobs, not only will you, you'll get a feed, and it'll start to tell you if there's similar jobs that you're looking for. And making sure your profile is up to date is really important, because to that point is, people will reach out to you based on your qualifications, and they search based on qualifications that they find in your profile. So you want to make sure it's up to date. But whatever your profession is, your professional organizations, I find, are the best way, not only to network, but also to understand what the jobs, what job is that a lot of times jobs are not quote unquote posted right in these traditional areas. And so if you're connected to those professional organizations, they'll often sort of identify a group of candidates prior to even, posting a job. So of course, job sites at the actual level of the hospital, if you're looking at a hospital, something like that, I would always be checking those. But professional organizations are great. PPS, within the health system space, there's more like Vizient, GPOs, Premier. There's a lot of those out there that have job boards. So I completely agree.
So we'll move on to a new question. What has helped you the most when pursuing your career path?
I'll start this one. Critical thinking. I think that was a huge thing that the University of Findlay really prepared us for, is to be that critical thinker and think outside of the box as you are getting out there on your own and getting your feet dug into your career path. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Tom or Shana?
Yeah, I would say definitely critical thinking and like problem solving, just out of the box things that come at you that they can train you for 1,000 different things. But when there's really out there stuff, and in medicine, there always is. I would say though, that's kind of the biggest, one of the biggest things. And for me, one of the biggest obstacles I faced was getting into a different professional school too. And that was a big thing for me. And the University of Findlay definitely helped a ton with that, because they flooded Ohio State with recommendation letters. So really just the small atmosphere and having professors that know you and really know you and will advocate for you was really, really helpful for me for that. And then I just felt like through that, and also through just the experience of at the University of Findlay, I feel like the critical thinking was huge, in problem solving, out of the box thinking for sure.
I'll chime in a little bit if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I think at the university, for me, was getting to learn from a lot of the different teachers that we had and their different styles. For me, at the time when I was there, because I was the third class, I believe, and every model, you start off with maybe the pathophysiology and the anatomy, and then you go to the therapeutics at the end. So getting to see different teachers and their different approaches based on their expertise, and then for me, really, you had teachers like Dr. Dudley, who's still there, I think, and the late Dr. Sheen. May his soul rest in perfect peace. But I would say those two guys, for me, were really what brought everything together. Medicinal chemistry is kind of like, it's like spatial chemistry almost, you're not really sure what it is, but Dr. Dudley really made it relatable in terms of when you're looking at the drug structure and how it works. And that's why the drug has this mechanism, and that's why it treats this. All right. And then Dr. Sheen at the end, giving me a real life case, a patient situation where, hey, patient showed up, these were the labs, 78-year-old male with a heart attack, these are the drugs, X, Y, Z. So like it connects it, like you go from, learning something on the wall to actually looking at the patient on paper. So to me, those skills were really translatable when I went for rotations. And I felt like that really prepared me, for the real world as well.
Excellent.
Yep, I think I completely agree, and I would add two things. So the first one is relationship building. To me, I think that was the most critical thing that I've done in my career, and every job that I've gotten has been because of a relationship that I've built prior to even applying for that job. So I think building and maintaining relationships is a key to any profession, to any professional, to any career. I read a book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, and it talks a lot about how you build success out of relationships. So I think I would highly recommend that book if you haven't read it or heard of it. But I think that's critical for regardless of what you're practicing in. And then the second thing being like not afraid to fail. So especially if you've got the opportunity to do something brand new outside your comfort zone, I've learned the most when I've done something or taken on a leadership role in an area where I have no idea what I'm doing. So, I mean, you don't do anything dangerous, but not with patient care. But anyways, that to me is the greatest learning experience that you'll ever have, because if you're not afraid to fail, you probably will at some point, and you're going to learn more from that than if you did everything perfectly the entire time. So now that you've transitioned like from that student mode into like the real career mode, or you're about to do that, I would say maintaining relationships with everyone you've met at Findlay, and then continuing to build that everywhere you go, and leaving it a better place than it was when you got there. And then second of all, just, pushing the envelope and trying new things. You're going to learn a ton from that. So, yeah.
So what tools have you guys used to stay organized and focused on your career goals?
Mine has definitely been journaling. I journal goals monthly, quarterly. They can be production for the office. They can be different procedures I want to learn and try. They can be any type of education I want to take on. Anything like that, I'll journal and keep track of monthly goals, quarterly goals, and then like every first Tuesday I go through and see if I'm hitting those. If I'm not, what kept me from them, and I do that with my personal goals too. I insert those together because I think they coincide so well, and it can be difficult to balance those. So then, if I missed one of my professional goals, I can see that maybe a personal goal took precedent and prioritize through that. So I would definitely say that was definitely a way that I've done that.
I think kind of what Tom said with relationships, peer support, what is peer and friends and family support to get you to your goals? That's been a tool that I have used. I agree with Shana for sure. Journaling, documenting. I still have a written planner that I still follow as much as technology is out there, but I still write down, do old school check off lists, so to say. But then when you get to that goal that you want, lean on those peers and your family for the support to get there.
I would say, one of the things for me, it's sort of related to networking, but it's about, building a group of people that you consider mentors, and mentorship in terms of career goals. Like you guys know, healthcare is robust and is ever changing. And some of the biggest things I've accomplished in my career so far have been largely because, I'll give you a classic example, being a part of my professional organization, I was looking to get into, pharmacy leadership. And, through that organization, I just reached out to a random gentleman by the name of John Armistead, who at the time was president for ASHP. And he said, sure, I'll mentor you. He didn't know me, nothing of that sort, all right? So he became my mentor. And when it came time for me, when I decided to go back and do the same program that Tom did at Wisconsin, he was one of the people that wrote me a letter of recommendation. So to me, one, taking chances, you're going to have to take a chance, realize that, hey, I'm here and I want to get over there. And what do I need? Well, if you find yourself mentors, and sometimes you have the network already to get yourself mentors in that capacity, but sometimes you don't, so sometimes it's up to you to go out and use the tools that you have to reach out to people. And hey, if you reach out to 5 people and one of them say yes, all right, take it and run away with it, and make the best out of that situation.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. So I also completely agree. I know John Armistead. He was actually in Cleveland last year, and we went to an Indians game together. And small world, I've never worked with him, but he was a leader in pharmacy, and he was in town, and we got together. So, I mean, I completely agree. And I think 2 of the things that I learned from 2 of my mentors, one of them, his name is Dave Zills. He's sort of like he's like a father of pharmacy, if you will. He's like, I don't even know how old Dave is. He's very old. But one thing Dave told me when I was a resident, he said, Tom, what's your life plan? He asked me that question, and I was like, what are you talking about? What's my life plan? He goes, you need to write down 5 statements, in your late 20s, early 30s about what are the plans that you have for your life? Because, hope is not a strategy. You have to plan it out and you have to work the plan. And So I actually took that advice, and I've done that, and I've done multiple things in my career purposely because I had written down what I wanted to achieve, and I thought about how do I get there. And I think that's more like the macro level. Success on the micro level, from like managing, goals in your career in general. I hate to throw another book at you, but Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. I learned a ton about time management and like how do you leverage a calendar and how to manage projects, and like you should do the same thing with your goals, personal and professional. So I think you always have to have that sort of like 30,000 foot level. But then your day to day, I know people who are down to every 15 minutes on their calendar they have planned out. And they're very effective. So I think it's just, finding what's right for you, whether it's a planner, calendar, something. But if you don't have a plan, you're never going to get there. So I think it's a key, definitely a key for success.
So as a brand new grad entering the workforce, how would you guys suggest we negotiate a salary?
Oh boy.
So I think in that you can't be afraid to ask for it. We've hired a lot of people, and I think through it all, I'm impressed with people who come in with a number and say, I think this is what I deserve. And not as impressed with people who are like, well, and I think I would have been one of the ones who was kind of skittish around it. And I don't think you should be. I think you should have a number going in. I think you should have what you kind of think. But I also think that it's important to understand that and say, maybe if you feel, the urge to, that, that if you don't make that much, or if they're not willing to go that far, that, in a year, I'll show you why I should get paid that much. And then we can renegotiate in a year. And don't be afraid to take a little bit less. My first job was not near as much as they told me I should be making, when I left Ohio State, but it led to an awesome opportunity and with really good people. And that what I got there was priceless. And so, don't be afraid. Don't hold a position to the almighty dollar, I don't think. But then don't sell yourself short. If after a year, if you think you've nailed it and you're like, man, I am awesome, then don't be afraid to say, hey, I think I proved my worth and, I'd really like a raise. I think people are a little bit more skittish around it, and I don't think it's necessary to be, as long as you're willing to compromise a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think a lot of it comes down to organizational culture when it comes to salaries. I've negotiated my fair share of salaries over the course of my career. And, in pharmacy, I don't know whether Tom will agree with this, you're sort of taught, that, salaries are not, you don't bring it up basically in the recruitment process. Typically, that you start talking salary when they extend an offer to you. You could look at it both ways, right? People who are in, engineering, IT, etc., that used to having conversations about salary very early on in the recruiting conversation. For us in pharmacy, that tends to happen at the end, and it's almost like, hey, you know what? Take what they give you, because especially when you look at, when COVID, while we're experiencing a pandemic right now. The job markets right now over the past couple of years have been saturated, for pharmacists, because of supply and demand. But to me, the big thing is, there's some salary surveys out there, for example, 1, 2, through your network, you'll be able to have a general idea of what you should be making. But what I try to tell people is don't focus on the numbers. All right. It's great. Take home pay is important. Don't get me wrong. All right. But there's a lot more goes into a benefits package beyond salary. So sometimes you might be able to take a little bit of a pay cut, but maybe on the other hand, maybe you get 5 extra vacation days, for example. All right. Or maybe, your 401k or 403b matching contribution is an additional 2.55%. And when you convert that into real dollars, that's something that's significant. Yes, it might not be coming, into your bank account every 2 weeks or every month, but that's something that's important. Shana mentioned, Ohio State. All right. I'm at University of Texas. Those are both state institutions. You know, they might not pay you the highest amount of money when you come out or even later on in your career. All right. But when you look at the totality of the benefits package, all right, the retirement system, the benefits of that, going to Ohio State games as a faculty and as an employee, all those things, those are fringe benefits. They all have a dollar amount to it. So to me, look at the whole package. Don't be focused on the number. And then if you find that the organization and the people that are going to constitute your team are a good fit, all right, you also have to take that into consideration. So, whatever your criteria is, look at it in totality. Don't just be focused on the number, because if you get focused on that, they might give you that, all right, but they might hold you to higher expectations when you start working, or if you don't like your working conditions, you could potentially find yourself in a miserable spot. So, things to be mindful of.
So do you guys have any suggestions for how do I keep a good mix of having a great work ethic, career advancement, but also a work-life balance?
I think a key word to remember with that is discipline. Discipline yourself to step away from your work. And it's very hard to do. Shana and Tom, I'm sure you can, and Z, I'm sure you can all think of that we take a lot home with us when we walk out the doors. But I think discipline yourself to know there's a boundary and to set that boundary early on and stick to it. I think that helps to have that work-life balance.
Yep, I would agree. I think along those lines, setting clear expectations at home and at work, and just understanding that sometimes you do have, sometimes those things integrate, right? And your work and your life become the same thing. And I think I've struggled the most when I try to keep them completely separate all the time. So everybody has a different philosophy. Some people call it work-life integration, some call it balance, some separation. Whatever works best for you, just make sure that those expectations are clear on your, the work side and at home. And I think the other thing about having, being successful with this is every time you make a change, or if you're contemplating making a change, or going back to school and getting another degree, or whatever it is that you're thinking about, you should have the conversation at home and make sure you're both on the same page, right? You don't want to, those are things that you want to agree on, and because your home life is the most important thing, right? And you don't want to be making decisions without that partnership. So I think that, just talking about things and being open and honest is really important. And it's like also setting up one thing that I did early on was I would stay late at work, and I didn't let my fiance know, like, hey, I'm not going to be home until like 2-3 hours from now. And she's texting me like, where are you? So I think it's just, maybe when things don't go right, we kind of agreed like, hey, you need to text me and let me know what's going on so that I'm not just wondering where you are. But I was like heads down working, and I was loving what I was doing. So I was staying late, and, I changed that. But I think it's just, being open and honest with each other, both at home and at work, is really, really important for that. And taking a break, always take breaks because you'll need them.
So what traits do you look for in employees?
The biggest traits that we look for, if they're coming out of school, we might look a little bit at their skills and stuff like that. And we want to make sure that obviously in our area, hand skills and stuff like that are really important. But my biggest trait, hands down, is if I'm looking at a resume and I see one grammatical error, it's out. That's number one. Number two, if it's not like pleasing to our eye, if the spacing's weird, that's out too. Those are like our two resume criterias. And then from there, the biggest traits are to be nice, honest, well-spoken. Even if someone's a little shy, that doesn't bother us. Really just being a nice person and confident, like that speaks volumes in our office. A lot of personal care in healthcare. You have to take care of patients and you work side by side with people. And so if you don't have a good bedside manner and a good, just a nice personality, and being a hard worker is a big one too. But those are probably our biggest things for sure.
Any other panelists or anyone else in the room can also chime in?
I would say for me, I look for fit. The question is what does fit mean? Obviously knowing your team and the type of people that constitute your team, is important. To me, a lot of it has to do with, how personable are you? How relatable are you? Are you a team player? Are you a hard worker? Are you somebody that is going to come in and, be a part of the team and get along with the folks that are on the team? And then I also look at skill set. I like to get folks that will complement the team really well. I don't like everybody to be a one-trick pony, so to speak. I oversee ambulatory services. So, I look at it like my team is pretty diverse. You've got people with ambulatory clinic backgrounds. You've got people, with a retail pharmacy background. You've got people, with, hospital background. You've got people with business background. So I try to get a good mix of people. So to me, what is your skill set? Can I cross-train you? Are you versatile? Or are you somebody that only wants to do one thing and this is really what my interest is? So to me, I try to get a well-rounded team. From my conversation with you and the questions I asked you, I realized that, okay, hey, you have a very good idea and good competency on these different areas of pharmacy, for example, that I feel like would be a good mix for us. Then for me, you're a strong candidate.
So I think several of you have referenced it, the importance of a resume. So have you guys ever reviewed a resume that just really stood out? Something that you thought, man, this really separates this one from the rest. Is there something that you're looking for in a resume that you would like to see?
I like to see concise but detailed, and that's hard to get the mix of those two together. So I want the highlights of the experience, the clinical, whatever the opportunity was that you were involved in. Give me that meat to that resume. If it's you treated patients of all ages and that's what stood out to you the most, then put that down. If it was working together as a team with other disciplines, then put that down. I like to see those kinds of things on the resume.
Yeah, I agree. I like to see results, which is sometimes hard to do, but I don't want to know exactly what you did. I want to know what resulted from what you did by looking at your resume. So what impact did you have if you did a project or if you took care of a group of patients or whatever it might be. So I think it's really critical to marry those two together, because if I'm reading your resume and I'm interested in it and I'm like, oh, wow, look at the great things that this person's done. It's not just a laundry list of all the activities that you did. It's the activities paired with the results of what happened because of your participation in those activities. And then conciseness is important. And if it's not on the first page, let's be honest, people don't read past page 2, maybe. Don't send 10 pages. Like, I know that, maybe in school you've got a CV that's 8 pages long, but if it's not on the first 2 pages, they're not going to read it. So I think, one of the things I always see in pharmacists' resumes, and it drives me nuts, is they put their license is the first thing on their resume. I'm a pharmacist. Well, congratulations, we all have licenses. So that should be the very last thing on your resume. Don't tell me you have a license. Tell me about you and who you are and what you've done, and make sure that's front loaded, because those are the things that are going to catch somebody's eye, and then they're going to check your license before you start. Don't worry. So like, make sure you have that, but don't put it first, you know. And I know that it's like a traditional way of thinking, but it's not the way that they're, you know, that you're going to stand out, I guess. So, and have somebody read it, have multiple people read it, and people that, if you're a pharmacist, don't have a pharmacist read it, have a physical therapist read it, or have your mom read it, or have somebody else read it. Of course, have people in your profession as well, but make sure it makes sense to somebody who's not as deep in the weeds as you are in your profession, because oftentimes it's not that type of person that's reading it first. It's HR, or you got to pass step one just to get to the pharmacist or the PT or the dentist, or, you know, whoever it might be. So yeah, make sure you have other people read it and accept their feedback and take their feedback seriously.
So what advice would you give yourself today, if you could, when you first graduated? Boy, I wish I would have donated more money to Rick States.
Yes. No. I definitely, looking back, I wish that I would have had more confidence in myself when I got out. That was probably the biggest key for me. And I felt like right when I got out, I needed to like really prove myself and really kind of be like no holds bar, and make sure I didn't, you know, come off too, I don't know, too like wishy-washy or anything. And in the end, man, I ended up like taking so much of the experience of people around me, and it helped build me as a practitioner. And if I just like let down my guard a little bit, let people in, understand that it was okay for me to be confident, but I didn't need to put up, you know, walls to make myself seem like I knew what I was doing. You know, sometimes you get out and you're like, wait, I'm supposed to make these decisions. And so just having that confidence and knowing I could make them, but also making sure that I, like they said, like delegated all that stuff, and just kind of let my team in on my goals and stuff like that, and really open the doors to kind of good communication, good teamwork, all that stuff. Doesn't mean that you're losing your leadership, or doesn't mean that you're losing, you know, by delegating doesn't mean that you're looking weak or anything like that. And that was a big thing for me. I felt like I needed to kind of prove myself, and I wish I didn't feel that need quite so much when I graduated.
Continue learning. You know, you've been learning for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in college, let alone your pre-college education, but just continue that love of learning. And yes, you're in a career, but take your vacation days to go do a conference or to get a certification. It's okay to take those vacation days. That's something I think that even as seasoned clinicians, it's okay to step away from the job. It'll be there tomorrow. I think that's something that I'd like to tell myself if I could go back.
Tom or Z?
Ask for help. Honestly, I think a lot of new employees want to appear that they know, and they want to, you know, be respected. And I think that's important. Obviously, you should know what you're doing. But if you don't know something, ask for help. Never guess, ever. Even if you think you know it, ask for help. And I think people really respect that, because it's you know, be humble. And if you know what to do and you know the right thing to do, you don't have to ask for help on every little thing that you do. But don't be afraid that they're going to look at you and say, oh, this guy, he doesn't know anything. You know, that's probably not what's going to happen. They're going to appreciate that you asked before you got started. So don't be afraid to ask for help ever throughout your entire career, especially in the beginning, though.
I would say, you know, be open to explore. Don't limit yourself. You know, again, you know, we live in strange times right now, and if you're static, you're going to be left in the dust. If you're dynamic, and if you take on new projects, if you raise your hand up and say, hey, you know, I'm willing to try this, and I think Tom, you know, has alluded to this, you know, already, to me, you know, you're going to create an opportunity for yourself. I try to tell people, especially residents, early on in training, I remember one of my former jobs, I told the resident, I say, hey, they're trying to open up a new clinic. All right. Like, look, if I were you, I'm doing that rotation and I'm looking at it like that's my job right there. And I'm going to work hard. I'm going to, demonstrate, the proof of concept. I'm going to show these guys that I could produce some positive outcomes, not only for our patients, but maybe I could help reduce costs, for the organization. So looking at that as, hey, this is a job interview. Yes, I'm a student. Maybe I'm in my RP rotation and they don't really expect anything from me. Or maybe I'm just a resident and I'm only going to be a year or two. But really looking at it like, hey, this is a job. I'm going to come here, do my job, work hard. I'm going to be passionate about my patients. I'm going to, network with the residents, with the doctors. And soon enough, I remember when I was at Riverside in my last year in Findlay, and I really like that model, I must say, because you get to spend 6 months in one site. And I remember towards the end of my time at Riverside, the preceptors were like, dude, go on rounds by yourself. Like, we don't need to be with you. You know what you're talking about. You're really advanced for a student. And that right there gave me the confidence to say, hey, you know what? Even if I come out as a new grad, I'm not going to face some of the pressures and some of the confidence issues that I might have. So, just get out there and, be able to take advantage of the moment and the opportunities that present you.
Perfect.
Well, we are coming to close to the end of the hour. Dr. States, you've done a great job and thrown, I think, a lot of good questions. I loved listening to the responses from everybody here, and I can relate to a lot of the things that you're saying. Great advice. Zach and Alan, I'm going to put you guys on the spot just for a second. Is there a question that you thought, I wish they would have addressed this tonight, but I never heard them hit on that? Anything that you think would be helpful to you as you're looking at your career opportunities right now? Zach, what would you have wanted to hear tonight that wasn't here that you'd like to post to any of the panelists?
I guess just for me is like a new grad that's coming in a even smaller market than we were in, with no actual like professional experience, when most jobs are requiring, like a PGY1 residency or, this many years of work experience. How would a new grad like me crack into such a tight market like that?
Zach, background?
I'm sorry.
What's your background?
Pharmacy.
Pharmacy.
And what are you looking to get into?
Really just anything at this point, because I thought I had a sure thing with a community chain that I'd been with for about 4 years interning, and then there were about 22 of us. I heard that were P6 interns, and they only took 3 as pharmacists out of that in Ohio. So
wow.
Just, if that fell through, and then I've just been, refreshing my LinkedIn every day, trying to, applying to everything that comes out, past 24 hours, just trying to really get anything I can, and, not even really getting like a call back at the least. And so I'm just seeing what your advice would be for somebody in my situation to try to just break into the market, any way I can.
I would say my biggest advice to you is geography. In as much as you want to stay in Ohio, I would say the quickest way you'll get a job is if you don't limit your geographic ability. Meaning if you open up your search, to not only Ohio, but maybe to a couple of more states. I was talking to somebody yesterday who graduated last year and has not been able to get a job as a pharmacist. The same thing as I was talking to somebody a couple of months ago, actually it's not been even been more than 2 months, who, did a PGY1 and did a PGY2 in HIV care, and is certified as a HIV specialist, and, worked in Dallas and lost his job in December and has not been able to find a job. So, needless to say, there's a lot of people in your shoes out there trying to get a job. To me, it comes down to geography. If you're willing to go, if you're willing to stretch yourself out of Ohio, just ask yourself, where am I willing to live, for at least, 2 years, or 3 years to get some experience, maybe before you go to your ideal geographical destination. I think if you open your geographical search, I think you improve your chances significantly.
Yep, and I would add too, Zach. So there's a lot more out there than just retail pharmacy, and there's a lot more out there than hospital pharmacy. So, you've got a lot of contacts. If Dr. Parker can give you all of our contact information. I'd be happy to talk with you more. But I mean, we've got a lot of alumni out there in multiple areas. So there's long-term care, there's industry, there's all kinds of stuff. Like Kyle Dresbach works at Cover My Meds, which is a service provider. There's so many things that pharmacists can do that is not dispensing drugs. And like Truven Analytics, you could work in drug information. There's just so much out there. So I would say widen your search if it's only looking at pharmacist positions. I know that's probably what you want to do, but you'll be surprised at the opportunities out there for non-traditional pharmacy and PT and other areas for other of you guys on the call that aren't pharmacists. But there's more out there than just the traditional role, and go after them, look at them, find alumni who are doing them, and talk to them about connections, because Findlay's got a lot of alumni out there. So that would be the other thing, is non-traditional outlook, geography, completely agree, and then start talking to alumni, get in contact with us. We'll help you out.
I also just wanted to throw in, sorry, Deborah. My husband works for the Department of Defense, and he said if during this time anybody has not been hit, it's been the Department of Defense. They are hiring constantly. So if you go to usajobs.gov, same thing. Like, it might not be the perfect fit for you, but he's like, man, they're hiring 20,000 people all the time. So they're at least a part of it that has not been hit. They have awesome benefits. So like, there's different things that you can look into. Obviously, that one of the bigger things would be if it's not in Ohio, but that is an option, because they're not on hiring freeze. They are definitely taking anybody. They're hiring constantly right now.
Great. That's a great tip. And the other thing I would say, I know it was talked about earlier, the networking in professional organizations, but if you see any professional meetings coming up, whether it's through a state org or a regional pharmacist meeting, get plugged into one of those, go to them. And don't be afraid to introduce yourself to a stranger and ask what field of pharmacy they work in. Because sometimes through that networking, you'll find out about a job or an opportunity before it ever gets posted or put on LinkedIn. If you give them your card, let them know who you are, that you're looking, that you're flexible, that you just love to be able to start, your skills and attributes. That networking can make all the difference. I was talking to Ernie Boyd not too long ago. He's the executive director of the Ohio Pharmacists Association, and he was talking about how a new grad was there talking to somebody at a meeting, and not long after that they had an opening, and they remembered that new grad and contacted them. They never even bothered to post it or go out there and go online. So get to some meetings too, and introduce yourself to strangers.
Okay. Thank you.
So Julie or Brad, do you guys want to have any closing comments?
Yes, thank you. Okay, and I just want to jump in real quick just to say thanks to everyone. So I'll start with Dr. States and Dr. Parker. Thank you for being here today and moderating this session for us. We truly appreciate your assistance, and you've both done a wonderful job in this role, as I knew you would. I am overwhelmed with gratitude for our panelists. So we've had so much good discussion here today, And I want to thank each and every one of you for zooming in and simultaneously coming together in that great Oilers spirit to show how Oilers really do mentor other Oilers. So thank you three for being here today. Our grads, thank you for weighing in. We've gotten great comments and questions from the grads. So thank you for being here and joining us today. Also, thanks to everyone on my team who made this possible. And I'll turn it over to Brad in a minute. I know he'll want to say a thank you. Keep in mind, the recording will be cut in a couple of minutes, but we've recorded everything tonight, and we're going to share that and use that, like I mentioned earlier, in posting those videos, emailing those videos, and that's exciting that this session is going to live on for others to enjoy it as well. So now I will turn things over to Brad.
All right, thanks, Julie, and thank you to all of the alumni panelists. This was an amazing session, wonderful advice. Do know to all of those who are watching this recording or are here live that you have lifetime services through the Center for Career and Professional Development. We talked a little bit about resumes. We are that, extra person to be able to look it over, make sure that the spacing is right and there's no grammatical errors. And we also we'll have career fairs. Yeah, we'll have career fair coming up in the fall. More than likely, it will be a hybrid for both either the pharmacy or health professions, where we'll have some part live and some part online due to the situation. So keep an eye out for the networking opportunities and the resources that you have at the university. We're always here to help. Julie?
Yes, thank you, Brad. And don't forget, so is the alumni office. So we are here for you for life. And check us out. Our website has a full list of all of the benefits that are available to alums. So thanks to each and every one of you for being here tonight. And we will see you all soon. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Good night.